Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to another Stories Inc. LinkedIn Learning session. My name is Bernadette Van Giesen, and I'm your host from Stories Inc. Stories Inc. is a content agency that specializes in employee storytelling, and we like to host these bite-sized learning sessions every other Thursday here on LinkedIn. So thanks so much for joining us, whether it's your first or not your first session. We're so glad that you're here. We have a really exciting conversation today. I am joined by Brenden Wright, Vice President of Global Talent Acquisition, Communications, and HR Operations at Veeco. Veeco is a global semiconductor manufacturing company, and we are so excited that he's here today. Hi, Brenden. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Sure.
Do you want to take 30 seconds to kind of like briefly introduce yourself before we dive into our topic?
Sure. Well, as you said, I'm Brenden. I am the Vice President of Global Talent Acquisition and HR Operations at Veeco. We are, as you said, a semiconductor capital equipment company, and we design, develop, manufacture, service equipment that is used to make semiconductors. I've been with the company now for a little over 12 years and have had lots of interesting challenges along the way, particularly related to talent acquisition. It's a very specialized space, and I know that's part of the topic of the conversation that we have today. So
Yes.
Glad to be here. Yeah.
Yes. When I was just looking through your profile a little bit, I'd love to see just the different career paths, and you really have been able to kind of like continue to iteratively build on the work that you're doing at Veeco.
Yeah. Good.
So before we get into like the meat of our topic today, so today we're talking about how to attract a highly specialized talent category. But we'd love to hear, I feel like something we always hear from people in our space is just how like it's one size fits one for like the structure of your team, like how you go about doing things, like how your team's structured, how you approach employer brand. So can you kind of just tell us a little bit about your team at Veeco, where you guys sit, where you are in your employer brand and recruitment marketing journey, and just kind of like lay the foundation for us a little bit?
Sure. You might have to remind me about a couple of those things there.
Yeah.
But so I'll start with our team, which when you hear a title like Global Talent Acquisition, it can sound really, really big. But Veeco is roughly 1,300 employees globally. And to support the organization in its entirety from a global talent acquisition standpoint, we have a very, very small talent acquisition team. My involvement on a day-to-day basis has really changed over the years, so I'm not really in it as much as I used to be. But we have 2 regular full-time recruiters that support the United States and Europe, and 1 that supports the Asia Pacific region. And we also augment occasionally with contract recruiters and bring them in as needed. But it's that small team that really is responsible for supporting all of the talent acquisition activities for the company. So that's sometimes I tell people that, and they're like,
that's a really cool team.
How is that even possible?
Yeah.
But it's possible because I'm lucky to work with such great people. We also have one of the things that I think differentiates us, just based on my own experience at other places, is we have a very strong partnership with our HR business partner teams and the business itself that really minimizes a lot of the inefficiencies that may cause you to need a bigger team sometimes. But it really does come down to we've got some great recruiters. So that's the layout of the team. I report to our Chief Administration Officer, and he reports to the CEO. So we're kind of right up there at the top of the organization. Have a lot of visibility, and again, as I said, have a lot of support across the organization to do recruiting well. And it is really required because we are in such a competitive market, and one that requires this really specialized technical talent. So it's not like there's a ton of candidates like there might be in some other industries or particular functions. As far as where we are on our employer branding journey, I remember when I first started here at Veeco, we really weren't on social media at all. That was kind of one of the things that I came here to help do and I guess bring a little bit current. And at one point, we actually, like many companies, had some ideas about whether it was smart or not to have access to social media in the workplace. And so we sort of worked through all that kind of stuff. And over the years, we've tried to build collateral. We've built out our website. And in the past few years, we've worked with the Stories team to develop a couple of employer brand videos. We tinkered around a little bit with a employment brand ambassador program last year, and it's interesting because I think you guys have just launched some training around that, and certainly something we want to check out to try to get more people to create content, because I think that's one of the biggest challenges with employer branding is being able to come up with the content on a regular basis. And I already described the size of our team, so it's, they're mostly focused on the requisitions that they have in front of them. So we've really got to try to leverage the rest of the organization. So I would say we're still early on in our employer branding journey, but we are seeing success and we're starting to build on that. And, I hope we'll continue to be able to add more collateral and make it something that comes to us more naturally, as opposed to it having to be this sort of effort every single time we try to do it.
Yeah, thanks. That's a really nice, just kind of like snapshot of what your role is at Veeco and some of the things that you all are working on. I know a lot of those kind of pieces we're going to touch on today, like video, trying to empower your workforce to share roles and take part in these global hiring ramps, things like that. So that's a really great picture. Okay, so you ready to kind of dive into our topic a little bit?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, great. So today we're talking about, how to attract a highly skilled technical position. And I know that Veeco recently went through and is still kind of working on somewhat a global hiring ramp for a position that's really important to your team. Can you kind of set the scene a little bit and tell us about, what the position is, why is it so important for Veeco, and just kind of like what this hiring ramp look like?
Sure. So it's not just one position. It's a number of positions that are sort of similar, and I'll categorize them by saying they're in the field or technical support space. And these are the people that work directly with our customers, generally on site with our customers. The tools that we make and manufacture are highly complex. There's thousands of parts to these tools, tens of thousands of parts to these tools. They sell often for multi-million dollars. I mean, they're marvels if you're not a person that's really familiar with these things. And so the people that are able to work on these kinds of tools and this kind of process equipment are very skilled. And not only are they very technical, and they have great logic and troubleshooting backgrounds. I mean, just think about it. You walk into a customer facility and this really important piece of process equipment that's right in the middle of their production is not working the way that it's supposed to be. You can imagine that the pressure might be a little high. So not only do you have to kind of walk in and figure out like what's going on with this thing and, how do I fix it safely, because safety is a top priority, especially with our tools. But also, how do you communicate with the customer? How do you communicate with the corporate office? Oftentimes, our technical support and field teams need help from engineers that aren't there on site with them to troubleshoot a problem. So these positions are highly sought after in our industry because people who do them well are extremely valuable. And as I've already shared, I mean, they directly interface with the customer, and how that goes can impact your relationship in both the short and long term. So we've been fortunate enough to be growing. We have lots of opportunities with all different kinds of top tier semiconductor companies, and we hit a point where we needed to staff up very quickly around the world, not just in the United States, but globally, to try to find people with a very specific kind of technical background in our industry to fill these positions. And as you said, it's a ramp. So by nature of that term, you're trying to do it quickly, and you want to deliver these people fast to the business so that they can start to have a positive impact with our customers.
And I think that quality and speed component is the tough thing to hit there, because it's like, as you said, these are people who are client facing, working in potentially, like, I don't want to say high stress, but it's like you want to get that machine fixed, you want to make sure you're delivering high quality, so it's like quality mixed with you need these positions filled fast is a tough
yeah, absolutely. And I think some of us have heard that cost, quality, speed thing triangle, right? You get two. And we're never going to sacrifice on quality, especially when we're talking about people. So and we want to go fast, but we also have cost limitations as well. So while I think in lots of MBA places around, classes around the world, they teach this interplay, we're challenged with trying to deliver on all three of those elements. So
yeah. Can you speak? I do think what's unique a little bit about this challenge is the global aspect of it. Because I think sometimes, like, I think a lot of times these hiring ramps, you think about like a new location opening and it's like concentrated at a physical location, or it's US based or something like that. What are kind of like the unique mindset that you have going into the fact that these roles are around the world that you're looking to recruit for?
Well, I would say recruiting in the United States is challenging enough for us because because of the skill set, because of our industry. I guess the place where our industry is right now. You may have heard of the CHIPS Act in the news. This is an effort to bring more semiconductor manufacturing into the United States, and that has created lots of opportunities for companies to build and invest. And when you build and invest, you need to hire. So now, just to use a term, there's more mouths to feed from a talent standpoint. So in the United States by itself, it's tough. But then you go outside the U.S. and not only are you running into the same challenges of that quality and speed that you talked about, but now you're getting into different employment laws, different cultural situations, especially in some of the countries in Asia, where recruiting doesn't happen like it does in the U.S. There's not just a 2-week notice. In some countries, employment for life is still something that is common, and people tend to stay with an organization for a very, very long time. Notice periods can be 3 months long. So a search that might generally take a few months, you then have to add a notice period. So you could be looking at, from the time you open a requisition, realistically 5 to 6 months before a person actually starts. So it's not just recruiting on the job that's open today. There's also an element of, each time we do this, it's pipeline building for the future and brand awareness for the future. And that's really where some of the employment branding activity comes in, because as we're doing all of this on a global basis and we're trying to introduce Veeco around the world, not everybody knows of us. I mean, before I came to work here, I'd never heard of the company either. My guess is you might not have either. But our work is very, very important. We're in almost everything that people interact with on a regular basis. In some way or another, our technology touches many parts of what people do on a regular basis, but people don't know. So when you get outside the country, there's less brand awareness, and that's just another complication. So add in the fact that I already described a pretty small but mighty internal recruiting team, and you have all the elements for a really tough time. So it's a unique challenge, but one that, as I said, I've been here a pretty long time, and it's just I think that's part of the fun of it is the fact that it is so difficult.
Yeah, so let's get into some of the things that you and your team executed to make this challenge surmountable. So what are some of the changes that your team made internally in your organization to attract, engage, and ultimately convert this highly specialized talent group?
So oftentimes when you look at the recruiting process, I like to ask this question. I'll ask a hiring manager. I'll say, what do you think, from the start of a project to the end of a project, is the thing that takes the most time during the recruiting process? And then in almost every circumstance, they say, well, it's finding the candidates. And certainly finding the candidates can be challenging. But when you look at the whole cycle of a recruiting project, generally the delay time is all in interviews and scheduling and availability and getting the team together. And is it a giant team or is it a team that's traveling all over the place? So whatever you can do to streamline that and to take out that delay time can really shorten the cycle time of any recruiting project. So one of the things that we did was we worked with our hiring teams to really get them down to a core group that we like to say knows what good looks like and can make a decision very quickly. We encouraged panel interviews, or more than one person in an interview. Again, when you schedule serial interviews, that just can take a lot more time, and then you have to kind of triangulate what everybody else heard. There's a lot of efficiency.
Someone's on PTO, someone's out, and then like you miss like a whole week.
Yeah, exactly. So if you get people together, and ideally, if you can get all the people together in one call and you have one interview, and you're like, at the end of it, let's make a decision, that can really help and accelerate the process. So again, as I said earlier, we have great relationships with our hiring teams. They understand that we need to move quickly, and they were all more than willing to find the people that know what good looks like and make decisions quickly. So that way, when we introduce candidates into the process, we're cycling them very fast and getting them into the interview process, making decisions. If they're the right person, great. If they're not, then we're able to move on to the next one fast.
I think that's such a good shift to make for a few reasons. I mean, I think across almost all roles, like a more efficient interview process can only be beneficial for your employee candidate experience. But especially when you look for a challenging role like this, that I would imagine a lot of the people you're recruiting are passive talent. Like they're probably high demand, they're high performers at their current organization. So it's like you really need to capture their attention while it's there. And so like I just feel like it's even more important when you get into these niche hiring groups that you need to make sure that you're optimizing your time with them, because it's like you have more to lose almost than they do.
Well, and there's this the psychology of speed. It's like, oh, they must really like me. They're moving really fast. Because most of us have probably been through an interview experience in our lives where it's been like, I was supposed to hear back by now and I haven't, or I was hoping this would move more quickly, but it's not. And when it does, it feels good. And it's a genuine thing on our part because we understand exactly what you just said. But more importantly, it is about efficiency. It is about, we're not sacrificing anything by doing it this way. We're just moving more quickly, and we're aligning with intention up front, so that allows us to go more quickly. So it may take some time at the beginning when you get going to slow down for a second. I think I was in the Marine Corps a long time ago. One of the things that we like to say is slow is what is it? Smooth is slow, and no, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So that's it. And so when you're slow intentionally, and then you create a smoothness in the process that actually allows you to go faster at the end. And so taking a few minutes up front to just make sure that that you've got this alignment can really help once you get into the interview processes. So that was one thing that we did, and that allowed us to make decisions much more quickly. We also we have I think a very generous employee referral program internally. So we kind of amped that up a little bit, and in some cases even doubled the referral bonuses to try to incentivize our teams to really take a second to think about who they might know. When you talk about employer brand, we also tried to leverage all of our internal teams that were involved in this hiring, encourage them to share these jobs on their own social networks, whatever they may be, whatever they were comfortable with. And for people like me, and perhaps like yourself and others that are in the talent space, being on LinkedIn is like breathing. I mean, it's very comfortable, right? And we might expect that, hey, like, just post this on LinkedIn. But there's a lot of people that don't ever go on LinkedIn unless they're looking for a job or some, something, they have some other reason, trying to connect with someone, whatever. And so they don't have that same comfort level. So taking that into account, trying to make it easy for them, maybe giving them options with different copy, like, hey, just take this and paste it in there. Here's an image you can use. Give them what they need to be able to do it. And then, well, what do I do if someone reaches out to me? No problem. Just send them our way, and make sure that you try to like remove all the pieces of friction that can prevent someone from wanting to participate in that. Even doing all that, sometimes people still don't want to do it, and that's okay. But if you're intentional about trying to make it easier, it can be a much better experience, and you can leverage some people who might not have been comfortable to do that otherwise.
Yeah, and I think for anyone listening out there who's going through a similar kind of hiring ramp in their organization, I feel like, Brenden, you just listed 3 or 4 like really good free things that you can do organically internally, of like getting better internal alignment, getting like a core recruiting team together that's really focused on these positions, knows what they're looking for, streamline that process. I guess doubling referral bonus isn't quite free, but it's working within the confines of what you already have in your organization, and then leveraging your people to share the roles on social within your organization. So there's a lot that you can do just within the current workflows that you're doing to be able to ramp up these hiring efforts.
Yeah.
And another piece, even when you talk about giving people something to share on social, so like giving them copy, giving them photos. I know a big piece, and Stories Inc. was able to partner with Veeco on this, was creating a recruitment marketing video that would kind of be able to be used in all these different touch points. So can we kind of dive into the video a little bit and tell us a little bit more about why that video was an important part of this strategy?
Sure, absolutely. So as part of all of that, those were the different elements of executing on, I would say, what we already have. And when you look at, okay, and you think about a job seeker that is contacted by a recruiter or sees a job posting somewhere, how do we stand out when these people are in, as I said earlier, are so great and in such high demand? How do we differentiate ourselves from other opportunities, or most likely the opportunity that they already have? Like, what could be different about us? And I think lots of companies struggle with this, trying to really share what they're really about, and elements of their culture, without it sounding like it's corporate speak. I'll just kind of leave it like that, right? So we think that video and stories and sharing directly from our employees is probably the most effective media that we have today, currently, to be able to articulate authentically, like what we're doing, what the opportunity is, what Veeco's about, who you could potentially be working with. And so it became very important to tie all these pieces together, to have something to go along with all of this that got that message across. And that was when we decided, all right, we need a specific video focused on our field and technical support folks, the ones that we're trying to recruit in this ramp. And that's when we came to Stories for help on that project to get that done.
Yeah, because I mean, up until this point, did you have anything that was kind of like personalized to this audience as you were going out to market?
So we'd done a little bit of employer branding work before. We'd worked with you previously to develop some, I would say, more engineering focused employer brand videos, and they went over great, but they weren't necessarily related to a specific ramp. This was really about giving people some insight into what it's like to be an engineer or work in the engineering team here at Veeco, but nothing focused on this particular group of employees. So that also created an opportunity for us to expand our collateral portfolio and really give potential candidates some insight on what it would be like to work in that particular functional area within the company. Certainly they had access to see the engineering videos, but it's always nice to be able to
see,
have
like,
something that's directly related to you.
Yes, yeah. I mean, because you gotta think it's a person on the other end of these applications, that it's like they want to know what the job is, they want to know what it is to be a technician at Veeco, but then, how is that part of the engineering team? Like, what is it like in a bigger picture? Like, they want to know
Right.
both, and so having the big picture look, but arguably more importantly, a look into what is my day-to-day going to be like? What is the culture of this team like here?
Yep.
How is it different than what I'm currently experiencing? Is super
Absolutely.
important.
Yep. Yeah. So that was really the basis, and then of course we reached out to the stories team to get some ideas and help us get that done.
Yeah, so I know we ended up settling on, so Veeco, your team picked the storyteller, but we did one employee spotlight video. We settled on interviewing a leader within this talent group. Why? What thoughts went into picking who would be the spotlight of this video?
Yeah. So generally speaking, when we've done this before, we focused on, I would say, employees down in the organization, and I do think that's an important element of authenticity and sharing what the day-to-day is. But in this particular case, we thought, well, there's a commonality when you're looking at a global organization, and the leader of that organization really has an opportunity to sort of speak to anyone that could potentially become part of that global service organization that we have. And so we had to move quickly because we're on this clock's ticking in the background. We got this ramp going on. We don't really have a lot of time to go and find people. And by the way, the people that we have are busy working with customers. So where could we get the proverbial most bang for your buck kind of thing? And ultimately we settled on our leader of our global service organization, and his name is Jeff. He was a great choice for this because, one, this ramp and this recruiting obviously is important to his entire organization. Number two, Jeff he's a U.S. military veteran, and there's a pretty strong veteran population that works in this technical support and field area. So we were kind of like, well, that's another draw. But Jeff also had the opportunity, because he's the leader of this organization, to talk about the impact that the team has, their purpose, the culture of the team, how you make a difference. Making a material difference is something that you see a lot with what we do at Veeco. So Jeff could speak directly to that. So once we thought through all those things and kind of figured out like who could cover all of that, he became the obvious choice.
That's a really, really good tip of thinking through like what you want the video to be. What are some of the differentiators when you are talking to this talent group? And then finding the storyteller that can kind of like align with those pieces. No, that's really great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So then tell us a little bit more about the video and how we brought it to life. So I know we ended up doing a virtual story session for this.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned before, we do have a little experience with this.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last time go around, we did an in-person shoot, so we knew the quality of what that looked like, and how it was expertly choreographed by the stories team. So again, we wanted to get this done quickly. We don't have a lot of time to fly people around and do photo shoots and that kind of thing. And thankfully, your team offered a virtual storytelling opportunity, and we learned a lot through our previous evolution of how to try to make that great. And of course, we had great partners on the stories team that helped set the stage, everything from looking at the things in the background to make sure that that was stuff you wanted to be in the video, to helping with lighting and camera placement and all of those sorts of things, and really took a lot off of our plate just in terms of trying to figure out how to do it right. So we were able to do it virtually. We also aligned with Jeff that we needed to move quickly. And so we all kind of committed that we were going to get this thing done and packaged and shipped within a 30-day period. And again, fortunately, you've got great people on your side. I'm again fortunate to work with a great Marcom team that was able to coordinate all this together. We had a very short turnaround in terms of preparation, kinds of questions that might be asked, and the general flow of the discussion, and Jeff's preparation to kind of make sure that he was at ease with the conversation, and having that upfront alignment about, hey, we need this to go quickly, means that anytime something is with you got an action to turn it around and get it back to the other person. So I think that helped accelerate those timelines. The day of the shoot went great. The video editing process was turned around quickly on your end. We got it on our side and looked at the music and looked at different, you learn a lot about, I guess I know enough about video editing at this point to make me dangerous, at least from the, at least from the observer side. But that goes back and forth. You pick the music, you do all the things, and you finalize it, and you share it internally and make sure that people are happy with the project, and then you get it out in the wild.
Yeah.
And so that was again, it was an exercise in understanding the urgency, because as we said, this is a ramp. So if it takes us 3 months to develop this video and it shows up late, well, how did it help us? So we were able to get it done in I would say the early beginnings of our ramp project, and have it then be a piece of collateral that we could use as we continue to work through it.
Yeah, in all those different places, like at events and emails, on social, landing page, career site. It's like it can be used in so many places.
Yep. It's actually the video that, like, when you go to our careers page, it's still the the main one that's there, that's got the headliner spot. So
Awesome.
it's been a great piece for us.
Yeah, well, here, I'll show the video real quick. And one thing that I really like about it is, even with the interview being conducted virtually, it was paired really well with that in-person B-roll footage. And so you can still see visually what the position entails, which is one thing I really love about it. Okay, here we go.
All right.
I had graduated from military academy at West Point, and then went into the Army, where I was a tank company commander for my last role. Coming out of that, it's a huge jump to go from tanks to semiconductors. My background in operations really lent itself to what we do in field service, because it's really about leading people, huge projects, right? And trying to figure out how to get from where you're at today to the mission that we're trying to achieve. We help our customers make many different types of chips. Our machines are in the factory of all the big names out there. The biggest tier 1 customers in the industry are engaging with us because of our technology, because of how well we're supporting. A typical day for Veeco field service engineer. You can count on your day, including a lot of interface with our customers. We are relying on that field service engineer to be our eyes and ears. What is working well for the customer? What's not working well? How are we doing on performance of the tool? How are we doing on our spares delivery performance? How are we doing on interacting and interfacing with the customer, and so forth? Earning the customer trust and rolling up our sleeves and getting it done. That's really satisfying. When I was running a tank company, we all had a mission, right? You had a strategy, you had objectives, right, on how you're going to meet that mission. If you want to come to a place where you are going to directly see what your contribution is and how it affects the end goal of the company, the end goal of the customer, and make that difference, I think Veeco is a great place to do that.
Yeah, it came together, all those different pieces you said at the beginning, like pulling in his military background and speaking to how that added to his career and perspective, and then how you're able to make an impact, the quality of the customers you're working with. There's just like so many pieces in that, and then all the visuals too.
Yeah, we packed a lot into that relatively short clip. So
yeah. Awesome. Well, I think we made it. So you got the video out into the wild. In the last kind of couple minutes we have here, how did just the ramp go? Like, were you able to fill a lot of the positions? What's the status of it now?
So yes, I wish I could say, oh, they're all done. But this is reality, and this is recruiting. So we had a lot of success in the U.S. We are still working through recruiting in Asia, and it continues to go along. And we made a lot of really good progress. And I think having all of these pieces in place, the market is the market, and even in a challenging market, you're going to have you're going to have ups and downs in terms of how quickly you're able to do things. But when you look at the whole strategy, what we really tried to do was make sure that whatever was keeping us from filling these positions wasn't ourselves, and getting all that alignment up front and making sure that we have lots of different touch points and pieces of information where we can tell our story, so that when we do have that opportunity to engage with the right person, they're able to see as much as they can, being an outsider, through all the different things that we've tried to do, including the video. And we'll continue to use this as we go along with our hiring here. But it was successful. I think if you asked the business when all the positions aren't filled yet, it's not, we're not done. And I certainly appreciate that. But we think it was this whole process and the video were valuable pieces in getting to where we are today.
Absolutely. Awesome. So I guess to quickly summarize some of your big points for anyone who is out there going through a hiring ramp themselves with especially a highly specialized group. I think for one, really understanding your audience, where do they come from? What are they looking for? What does your company offer that might be different than what they have now? That internal alignment piece. So get your super teams together, get everyone on the same page, streamline processes where you can to try to speed up that process for the candidates. And then you might have to create something new. You might need to add something to your repertoire to just communicate more clearly with your candidates what your company has to offer. So those are kind of my high level. But any final tips that you want to leave our audience with? If there's anyone out there kind of going through a similar hiring ramp?
Maybe the only thing is in the discussions that we had around, how do we get this video done? Why partner with stories? Why not just whip your cell phone out and walk around the building and take some videos? If you've ever tried to make a reel on Instagram or try to do this yourself, you learn pretty quickly that it's harder than people might think to do it well. Certainly, if you have that skill set, and some companies do, that's great. But for us, it was important that it was a balance of professionalism and authenticity. And with a small team, you guys were a great partner for us to be able to get this done and align quickly and turn it around quickly. We may still be trying to get it done if we try to do it ourselves. So there's a lot to be said for doing things in-house, for sure. And maybe one day we'll be able to take all the lessons that we've learned in working with you and make some stuff on our own. But that was a key decision that we had to make. If we want to move quickly, how do we do that? And that may be something that some people are trying to figure out. So thought I'd offer that as well.
Yeah, well said. Thank you. And it was a pleasure partnering with your team. We love the team.
Awesome. Well, they loved it too. And again, I didn't do any of this on my own. It was a lot of great people internally here at Veeco that participated, and certainly the folks from Stories were right there with us.
Wonderful. Great place to end it. Well, thank you so much, Brenden, for sharing your insights with us today. And I'm sure people can find you on LinkedIn. You have great posts. So I highly recommend giving Brenden a follow for some inspirational content.
Awesome.
Thanks. And we will hopefully see you in the future. Bye.
Cool. Thanks a lot. See you.